Good evening, everyone. You are in the spotlight with Brian Gardner for this Wednesday, December the 16th, 2015, in the Spotlight 401, coming at you on this Wednesday for our first and only primetime show this week, our first of two shows in general this week. More on that, what's going to be going on this week, next week, and beyond just a moment. But first, as always, I want to remind you of the ways which you can contribute and interact with the show. You can do so by emailing us at itspotlight411@gmail.com. You can also follow us and tweet us at itspotlight401. And please remember to use the hashtags, your hashtag itspotlight401 or hashtag ITS5. ITS5, of course, representing our 5th anniversary on the air as a podcast. You can also find us on Facebook. Just search for In the Spotlight 401 and make sure you like our page. All that being said, first time I think ever in the history of ever that I start the show with both of us on the air, but that's because I opened the show up and then got caught up in something in the living room, and that's why my co-host is on the air at the same time as me. So everybody, welcome in Mike. He is in the spotlight.
Technically, I'm usually here before you, just waiting for you to make a call. I just hold off on joining the call.
Yeah.
Because, variety of reasons. Sometimes I have to go to the bathroom, and as you correctly pointed out before you started the call, nobody wants to see that. I think I might make you feel less manly than you already do.
You do.
To be fair.
Regularly.
But that would just be inappropriate to have a Google Hangouts call where I'm just sitting there, dangling my wiener, taking a piss. That would not be very appropriate.
Yeah, that would be very inappropriate.
So, yes, nobody wants to see that. However, I feel like I'm doing you a favor by doing it before the show.
You are.
However, if you feel like I should be doing it during the show, then don't worry. I will start doing it during the show. You are very welcome.
Please don't. That would be detrimental to our entertainment quality and value.
What can I say, Brian? I aim to please.
You do aim to. Oh, geez. Okay. All right. So let's get down to business here. This is our first and only primetime show of this week. Now, look, I ain't even gonna try, folks, to lie to you. The reason why we're not on the air tomorrow is because of Star Wars. Now let me just tell you this. I probably could have squeezed in a show tomorrow because I'm not going till later in the night, but nonetheless, I had to guess that a lot of our audience members are going to be out and about seeing this movie. So it's one of those things. We've done it over the years. We haven't done a show because of a big movie being released because we just don't want to bother going up against it. Well, here's one of those cases. So it is what it is. One show this week in prime time. We will have a second show that will be our Football Blitz show, and that will be coming at you this Friday at 2:00 p.m. Eastern time. So just like it was last week, Friday, 2:00 p.m. Eastern time. Of course, it could start a little later than that. And that will be our second show this week. And of course, we'll do what we always do on that show. Look back at last week's NFL games, look ahead to this week's, look back at our predictions. There will be a little college football. I decided that instead of trying to get all the bowl games into one show, we're going to split them up. So we're going to do half of them on Friday and half of them next week. We won't do anything with the playoff games until the last minute. Last year, we put them all into one show. I didn't like it, so we're not going to do it this year. So you'll get a little college football bowl preview on Friday as well. And that'll be Friday's Football Blitz show. Next week and the week after, once again, only two shows. Except our only primetime show will be back on one of our usual nights. This coming Tuesday will be our only show of next week. So next Tuesday, the 22nd, will be our only show of next week in prime time. And we'll do just like we're going to do tonight: sports, wrestling, entertainment, that whole deal. And then our Football Blitz show will probably be on Wednesday next week, and that will probably be the same case the week after as well. Because Thursday being Christmas Eve, Friday being Christmas Day, we want to stay away from that. So what you're looking at is Tuesday, our usual primetime show, sports entertainment deal. And then Wednesday, our Football Blitz show during the day, probably at 2:00 p.m. Eastern time. But I'll give you a final announcement on that on Tuesday's show. And then that will follow that same schedule the week after. Tuesday, 8:00 p.m. Eastern time, sports entertainment combo show, and then Wednesday, Football Blitz. So next couple weeks, pretty much the same deal. And then the first week of 2016, we'll be back to our normal schedule, albeit with a little bit of a different setup as far as how the show is going to go. We're going to do things a little differently, creatively, and I'll talk more about that, not tonight, not next week, but the week after as we get closer, because otherwise I get inundated with questions and we waste time, and it's just not good. So more on that in a couple weeks. And then that's when we'll open up the new host site and do all the other stuff. So, all right. So now we got the schedule for the next few weeks established, all that other stuff out of the way. We have a very full show tonight. Although it's not as full as you might think. If you look at the show description, and I don't think many of you do, most of the time anyway. I said we'd run down the big headlines in sports, but there's not a lot of headlines in sports, okay? There's really nothing out of the NBA over the last week, except for Golden State finally losing, which I'll bring up quickly, I guess. College basketball had a rather kind of weak week, but we'll talk a little bit about it. MLB, I mentioned this last week. I said we'd do some stuff about the winter meetings. Well, really not much happened, but I'll touch on a couple of things there, some of the signings that took place over the last week. Really, it's going to be very, very quick. Then there's a thing about Pete Rose I want to do, because obviously the MLB kind of finally ruled on that. It's not much you can say about it, but and then entertainment-wise, we got the box office beat, entertainment news, and I'm going to be honest with you folks. The box office beat is just basically Star Wars conversation. Entertainment news, there's not a whole lot there. I always put that in there just for the hell of it, in case something comes up, in case somebody suggests something. Most of it's just going to be like TV highlights, TV highlights and box office beat on the entertainment side. Well, we're probably going to spend the most time tonight, and our wrestling fans will be excited about this because we don't usually do this, but it's probably going to be in the wrestling top form, because a lot happened on Sunday and Monday. A lot of surprise, a lot of changes. Some I can, I've heard some things. Some of it we can bring into the conversation, some of it we can't. But there's a lot of things there, rumors and stuff like that some of them I'd rather bring up, some of them I'd rather not. You probably read some of them. We'll talk a little bit about all that on the show tonight. So very jam-packed show. Let's get going. We're going to start off in the sports portion here. And as I said, there's a couple of quick things I want to get to. First of all, on the side, let me briefly talk about the MLB stuff first, because I know my co-host doesn't have anything really much to say about that. And I try to keep the basketball stuff together. First of all, over the winter meetings, first of all, not much happened. Second of all, because a lot of this, it must be based on Price and Greinke were already off the board before the even got going. I mean, yeah, the Yankees did some Starlin Castro trade and that, but you know what? There was really nothing big that went down, except for Haywood went to the Cubs. And then on the weekend, you heard the news that Johnny Cueto signed with the Giants. Now, you look at what the Giants have done. They went and got Jeff Samardzija. They went ahead and got Johnny Cueto. So you got a rotation of Kane, Bumgarner, Cueto, Samardzija. It's a good rotation. But again, you got to keep in mind, you look at what the Nationals did last year with their rotation, it was kind of similar, and they didn't make the playoffs. And the trap that so many people fall into is that, whenever we see these teams, and especially in recent history, build these super rotations of pitchers, it almost never guarantees you even a playoff spot. Because here's the thing. They need to stay healthy, number one. Number two, you need to be able to hit to go along with the pitching. And most of the time, these teams that go ahead and get these pitchers aren't good offensive teams. They're trying to compensate. Or they don't have good bullpens to go along with that starting pitching, and then it just kind of negates it. Luckily for the Giants, they have a good enough bullpen to go with the starters. So on the pitching side of things, they're good. Offensively, they have a couple guys. Might want to do more than that. We'll see. To me, the team that's done the best so far is the Cubs. That deal for Haywood. Now, I understand Jason Haywood is not a great player. He's a good player. And in this day and age, good players make an insane amount of money. We all know that. That's just the way the game is. He's not a great player. He's a good player. But you look at what the Cubs already have. you add him in with all the other big bats that they have. On the pitching side of things, they already had Lester. They went ahead and added John Lackey, who's a proven postseason pitcher, who reclaimed his skill and talent and reclaimed his magic back with St. Louis. And he is going to be a very, very good addition. They also went ahead and got Ben Zobrist. The Cubs, I think, are the team to beat in the National League. Because, see, here's the thing. They're multidimensional. They got the starting pitching. They got Arrieta. They got Lester. They got Lackey. They got the bullpen, which I like. I think they could stand to get another reliever or two. They don't have a dynamic closer, okay, but they can. I think they can maybe get another arm or two and find that. But they're doing good there. They got enough guys to set up at least. They can probably find a diamond in the rough somewhere. Lineup wise, their lineup is fantastic. It's got dimension. It's built for a playoff run. Joe Maddon does the best with less than any manager in baseball right now. They're primed to win. They're probably the most complete team right now. Probably the only weakness probably is the bullpen, but they can work on that. They got plenty of time. Cubs, I think, have done the best. And I think the Giants did themselves a couple of favors. They probably could use a couple of bats. Yankees are okay so far. They can do a lot more than that, though. Some of their trade, that Wilson trade was puzzling. I don't even understand that. I can understand trading Warren to get a second baseman, but I don't even understand what they did that for. I don't get it. I think you trade Wilson for something more than two minor leaguers, but we'll see how that turns out. Who knows? It's hard to look at a deal like that at this point. You got to wait maybe down the road and see where it goes. Other than that, there really wasn't a whole lot of movement. We talked about it last week. A lot of the big moves prior to the meetings we talked about last week. There wasn't a whole lot going on. I mean, there was the tease of Fernandez with the Marlins, and that never went anywhere. At least teams didn't want to go there. The Astros did the Giles deal with the Phillies, which I thought was a good move for the Astros, because that's the one bullpen arm they do not have as a power throwing reliever. They got one finally. That was a big plus for them. So I think that was a good kind of deal. It didn't get enough attention, I thought, because Giles only had one really good year with the Phillies last year. But yeah, I mean, it was a pretty calm week. But I think so many people were expecting the trade market to kind of explode last week, and it didn't. And I don't know, maybe the Fernandez thing with the Marlins kind of stalled everybody out because nobody expected it. It kind of came out of nowhere, and everybody's invested in that. And maybe that held up a lot of deals. I don't know. But it did quiet down quite a bit. Last time we were on the air, I think, was last Tuesday. Well, last time we talked about baseball was last Tuesday. And really that night, you felt like a bunch of things were going to happen. Didn't happen. Really. And everything just kind of quieted down after that. And, the Cueto signing over the weekend, there you go. So, but at this stage, a week out of the winter meetings, I think if you look at it, the Cubs have done the best of anybody. I think you can probably put maybe the Giants second. And I think maybe third, you could probably go. Third, you can probably go Astros maybe if you want to, because I think getting Giles was a big move for them. I think that would be the top three so far. Maybe Arizona. I don't know, because getting Greinke's a big deal. But I'd probably say Astros, Diamondbacks for third so far this offseason. And all these teams in the National League. So the National League teams have been very busy as far as acquiring players. We'll see what happens. I mean, this next week I think will be a little busy. Usually a lot of these teams try to make their big trades, big signings before Christmas because, it's just the way it usually happens. You're probably going to have a lot more later signings this year because a lot of the market, especially for the position players, materialize later than usual. We'll see what happens. A quieter winter meetings than usual, but a lot of big names still off the board. A lot of big names went off the board early. And obviously Cueto this weekend came off the board. So we'll see. Be interesting to see what happens over the next week or so as you approach Christmas. Usually things get active. And then after that, I think we'll see a little bit more activity than we normally see because of how slow, especially for position players, things materialize. So that's the winter meeting stuff. Really quickly, Pete Rose, which Monday was a big story. Rob Manfred, the MLB commissioner, finally made a ruling on the case saying that they will not be reinstating Pete Rose in baseball. And look, you know, when Selig left, there was a chance. Okay, there was a chance. There was a sentiment there. You know, you could tell Manfred wanted to hear things out. He was very much open to the idea of revisiting this. You know what? It's been a long time. You know, the whole idea was to make sure, from a character standpoint, that Pete Rose had rebuilt himself, rebuilt his image. Well, a lot of things came out shortly after the ball got rolling on potentially, you know, revisiting this. And that really took away any chance. I'm really surprised that baseball waited this long to rule on it. Because really, the minute all that information got out, like the bookie information and all that stuff, the minute all that stuff got out, you know, basically saying that nothing had changed, or basically painting Pete Rose again in a negative light. The minute that happened, the ship sailed. It did. I mean, what can you do if you're the commissioner? You can't. And a lot of the public sentiment went away. So there was nothing. There was no reason for him to even bother. So I'm really surprised that it took all these months for them to finally just come out and say, no, we're not. It's done. We're not going to revisit it. He's not going to be reinstated. There's no chance. See you later. And that was his last chance, at least while he's alive. And God willing, I hope he's alive for many, many more years. Man's a great player. You know, it's sad that he's not going to be in the Hall of Fame. Maybe decades down the road, there's a possibility if somebody says, you know what, we're going to look past it and put him in. But this is decades down the road. Decades. It's not a few years. It's decades down the road. They just can't justify it right now. They can't. They can't. And there's really not much else you can say about it. Mike, I know that you don't really have. I don't expect you to have much to say about like free agency, winter meetings, and stuff. But do you have anything to say on the Pete Rose situation?
Honestly, this is the first I've heard of the Pete Rose situation. I really don't pay attention to baseball that much. So the fact that they actually went out of their way to revisit it is shocking. I didn't think they would. And if what you're saying is true, that, you know, Pete, all the information about him actually not changing, he's still gambling. He's still betting on games. Well, right now it doesn't really hurt the game that he's betting on it because he's been banned from it. You know?
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't impact anything in the game. But the fact that he still is doing it is a problem because he hasn't learned his lesson. He hasn't learned that, hey, maybe I should stop betting on games as that got me banned. No, he hasn't learned a damn thing. So, yes, I'm not surprised sentiment for Pete Rose is gone. I'm not surprised that they actually. Well, I mean, I am surprised I guess they gave him a chance, because it's like baseball really, really wanted him. They really wanted Pete Rose to be the guy who turned over a new leaf. They wanted him to kind of be reformed, rehab. They wanted him to kind of just like be the hero that we all want. And he just couldn't do it. That's just the long and the short. He just isn't. So, I mean, there's not a whole lot more we could say about Pete Rose.
And you know what the key was? The thing that changed the whole thing was that they discovered, okay, that it was established now that he wasn't just betting while he was a manager, but while he was an active player.
Yeah, I mean, well, here's the other thing. Baseball is a sport, and I'm not going to speak too much more about this. Baseball is a sport that takes itself far too seriously for what it is. It is a boring, tedious 3.5 hour game where grown men take wood up to a plate and another man throws a ball and they have to connect the bat to the ball and try to hit it as hard as they can.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I just described baseball or gay porn. And if you hear some of the analogies and terminology that the analysts make, you would be confused as well. Eyes closed, you wouldn't know what they were talking about. But I digress. It is a sport that takes itself, and it's a sport that takes its records far too seriously. And at this point in time, it feels like it is the most. They feel like they are the most relevant and important thing in the universe when they couldn't be any more irrelevant to like culture at large. That's the thing with baseball. Our records are our most sacred thing. No, it's really not. Interest in your sport and getting future generations interested in your sport is the most important thing. And you're fighting football, you're fighting basketball, you're fighting soccer, all of which are more interesting sports than baseball. The era of baseball is quickly diminishing, and this attitude that our records are more pure than everybody else's is quickly dying with it. Because the era in recent history that generated the most interest in the sport, the home run era, made the journalists, made the analysts, made the experts so butthurt and so insulted that they wanted to distance themselves so far from the sport. It hurts. The point is this. What's his face? Captain Cheater there. Pete Rose is one of the best players in the history of the sport. It is a fact that nobody can argue with. He really is one of the best players in the history of the game. And he has been a spectacle during his career, during his managerial career, after his ban. The truth is this. Pete Rose has made too many enemies within the sport. Pete Rose has not learned his lesson about the sport. He has not learned that these people can't just give him a break because they take themselves too seriously. They treat their game like it is the blood of Christ. And anything to dampen the integrity of their game is grounds for banishment. And you know what? Enough time was passed where maybe they would have given him a chance. Enough time, enough sentiment has passed. And then you do something stupid like decide, oh, well, maybe, everything will get out. And, oh, well, I was banning it. I bet on the game as a player too. Ha, 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 ha. And there it is. Pete didn't learn his lesson. The sport didn't learn his lesson. Nobody wins here.
Right.
Nobody won here. And the sport continues its downward spiral. and Pete Rose is never going to get into the the only Hall of Fame he is going to stay a member of is the WWE Hall of Fame. That's it. He might get in after his death, God, and I feel bad for saying it, but that's the truth. Eventually, decades down the line, you're right. They'll probably put him in after he's long gone, after he can no longer tarnish his own image, his own career. Baseball is waiting for Pete Rose to literally be away from this earth so they can start celebrating him again. And that is the sad fact. But by that point, baseball will be not relevant. So there it is.
Yeah. Good. Okay, so that's the baseball side of things. Now, let's jump to college basketball. I know there's some things that off the court that can be said, and we'll talk. Just before we get to that, though, as far as on the court stuff, really outside of Saturday, not much went down. North Carolina lost a game in a buzzer beater to Texas. Shaka Smart gets his first signature win at Texas, 84-82, which dropped Carolina down. Well, Carolina, you're noticing what the trend is of Carolina. Carolina is better this year than they've been the last few years, but they still can't play defense.
Wow, there's a surprise.
So that's as simple as that. Cincinnati and Xavier played they returned to their home rivalry game, and it was really a very physical contest with Xavier won 65-55. Xavier, of course, really is kind of sneaking up on teams this year. A lot of people think that they could be a Final Four team. You have UCLA, which beat Gonzaga. UCLA, of course, ranked this week as they should be. They've had a great couple weeks. Gonzaga continues to struggle, proving how overrated they were. Boise State beat a very good Oregon team, 74-72. And then you had Utah drop 7-2, and they were in the top 25 to Wichita State, who's getting healthier. Which, again, we knew once they got healthy, they turn it on, and that's what they're doing. And Michigan State got quite the test from Florida, too. Only a 6-point win for them there. And then, really, if you look outside Saturday, there wasn't really a whole lot in college basketball this week. I mean, last week you had the Jimmy V Classic games featuring, Villanova. Hang on a second. I'm checking something out right now. I forgot to mention the Dayton game. Dayton being Vanderbilt, 72-67. Vanderbilt proven to be quite overrated. Forgot the Dayton game. Dayton's actually a really good team. They're going to be in the tournament. They're a very good team. I apologize. I meant Virginia, not Villanova. I'm so sorry, Mike, for comparing your team to Virginia.
Screw you.
But yeah, the Jimmy V Classic games for Maryland, Connecticut. Maryland, which beat Connecticut 76-67. Very good performance by Maryland there, Melo Trimble. And then West Virginia, which was a nice little battle. Virginia beats West Virginia for the first time this year, 70-54. So a good win for Virginia. Well, no offense to Virginia. We just think they're overrated every year. Just, it is what it is. And that's really, like, as far as big games, that's all you had this week in college basketball. There wasn't really a whole lot. The biggest story in college basketball off of this week was something that happened off the court, and that was the retirement, the immediate retirement of Bo Ryan, who coached the game last night, and this after the game decided that was it. Of course, he just had made that decision before the game, and just didn't tell anybody in the media or whatever until after the game. And a lot of the players said they noticed it. He looked sad before the game, and of course, Bo had announced prior to this season that this was going to be his last season. Of course, the team has not had a very good year. The only really signature win was against Syracuse here at the Dome. Greg Garr will take over. He's the associate head coach, will take over in interim. Bo had mentioned, and of course the Badgers are 7-5 this year. Bo had mentioned not to count the Wisconsin out yet, even though they're 7-5. Look, I don't know why this happened. I don't know if maybe it was too much hanging over these players' heads, it being Bo's last season, and they wanted to, have a good season because it's his last season. I don't know what it was. Okay. But the fact that he did this when he did it should tell you that, I don't know if it's a health reason. He is older. My feeling reading what I've read in that it was more than likely a distraction for the team, him retiring and all that stuff. That's why a lot of times coaches do not do that whole, okay, I'm retiring this season. This is my last season. A lot of them just wait until after the season's over. And then they do it because they think it is a distraction. It takes a, so maybe he realized this. Maybe he realized it was putting too much pressure on the players, and he decided to kind of alleviate that. I don't know. But Bo, even last year when Wisconsin got to the national championship game, Bo Ryan was always an underrated head coach, an underrecognized head coach. He, year in and year out, his teams won 20 games, made the NCAA tournament, usually at least ended up in the Sweet 16. I know that so much is made about, making the Final Four, winning championships and all, but his teams were every year, they were consistent, usually in the Big Ten title game or at least the Big Ten semifinal. Very consistent from the time he was there to the time he just retired. Made the NCAA tournament every year since he got to Wisconsin. Before that, I think they only made it 3 times total. He had a great career. He is a Hall of Famer. He's a brilliant basketball mind. I know there was some bitterness there last year at the championship game and everything, but you know what? Very good man, very good coach. He will be missed in college basketball, especially since he's one of these old guard kind of coaches that stuck with one school kind of for the most part. Yeah, he'll be missed, and you know what? It sucks. I mean, at least he went out on a win. It sucks that it had to be so anticlimactic and so rushed and so out of left field, and that it didn't get the whole build-up it deserved. But then again, like I said, that might have been why he did it. He didn't want the build-up. He didn't want the distraction for the team. So regardless, Bo Ryan no longer the coach of the Wisconsin Badgers. Mike, you have anything to add?
Getting this Google Plus thing to work pretty accurately all the time is really tough. So Bo's done. I thought he'd wait at least last the season.
Mm-hmm.
That, of course, I guess was not in the cards. That's too bad because Bo is he was a fantastic coach. Last year, though, with Kaminsky, that was his opportunity,
Mm-hmm.
That was it. That was the best chance he's ever had. However, didn't work. Duke won. Well, Duke won, but Wisconsin lost that game. Duke didn't really win that game. But he had a very legendary career. I'm surprised. I don't know if there was a reason for it. I actually did think he would last the year, but 7-5. I guess it was time for him to. He said, "You know what? I'm calling it a year, calling it a career." 14 years, 364 victories, 7 Big Ten championships, pair of Final Four appearances. He had a hell of a career. He's currently a finalist for the Naismith Hall of Fame. He's going to get in this year.
Mm-hmm.
That's almost a guarantee. His assistant, Greg Gard, took over. There's probably not going to be that much of a change. It's just he's got to find a way to get some of those younger kids to play older than they are, smarter than they are. And that's something Bo has excelled at. He got those kids to kind of really play better than they were. So it's not a sad thing. It's just a congratulations on a hell of a run, Bo. Enjoy Hawaii. You've earned it.
Yeah, it's and again, the surprise nature of it, and again, the fanfare is still there, and he is a Hall of Fame finalist, so Final Four weekend he'll probably get a little bit of that fanfare, but it really does suck that it had to happen that way. But you know what? I really think the reason was because he thought it was best for the team, and that really speaks to the kind of coach he is. That he realized it just wasn't, there was something off, that it wasn't working out, and he made a move that was for the team. If I think that's what it really was. It was about the team, and you can't argue with that. All right, so that's really all on the college basketball side of things. Now, really quick before we jump out of sports, there was one big NBA story this week. We all know what the NBA story was.
LeBron James took a poop.
No, the Golden State Warriors finally lost the game. Of course, it was on the day after they had played in a double overtime game, which no doubt probably played a role, I would imagine. So now the Golden State Warriors are a lowly 24-1 on this season, although they still yet to lose a game at home. And nobody's feeling bad for them, certainly. And the one thing, look, a lot of people, I've got a lot of comments over the last couple of weeks about, especially once Golden State got to I think it was around 15-0, people started there have been teams that have gotten to 15-0. Okay, this is not unprecedented. Okay, we've had teams do this. Okay, and this is why I didn't talk about it, because is it amazing to go that long to start the season without a loss? Oh, it is amazing. I don't want to diminish what Golden State did. They beat a lot of good teams in that stretch. A lot of good teams. Okay, it's not like it was padded by cupcakes. Okay, it wasn't. But it's not, to me, it's not historic unless you start knocking on the doorstep of number one. And they still had, I think, 10 more wins to get to that point. Or less than 10 wins, but I think it was 8 or 9 or something like that to get to that point. And then, you know what, if you tie the record or you break the record, then we start going, all right, you've done something that nobody else has done. How far is it going to go? That's when you start to really talk about something like that. And that's why I withheld from talking about it. It was great what they did. They're clearly the best team in the NBA. There's a chance that they could conceivably tie the Bulls record at the pace that they're going. For best record, I mean, for that record is there. They could do that. But again, it's too early to say that. You give them props on the record. You give them props for being the best team in the NBA. They're going to at least get to the Western Conference Finals. More than likely, going to be in the NBA Finals, unless San Antonio has something to say, which they could. And they're right there in second place in the West, so they could. I'd still put more money on San Antonio getting there, or I'd put more stakes on San Antonio getting there than, Golden State, even though the Golden State Warriors look the best of any team this year. But I still bet more faith and trust on San Antonio than I would on Golden State. But you can't take away from what Golden State did. And they handled it, to their credit, very classy. They handled it the right way in a loss. You know what they said? You know what? This means we're happy we started the season this way. We love what we've done. You heard Draymond Green say, you heard Stephen Curry say, you know what they said? Back to the drawing board. We gotta watch the tape. What did we do wrong? Why did we lose? Come back next game, try to win, try to get better as a team, try to get better as players. That's the right way to handle it. It wasn't just, they're all down dumps. You know what? Yeah, they didn't like losing. They hated losing. But they took what they needed to take out of it. You know what? We lost. And that means that we need to get better. And there was something about the way that they handled themselves that I really liked. And I think they showed a lot of growth, a lot of maturity. They handled it very well. Very well. And the Bucks end another streak. I think they had ended the Lakers streak decades ago. Now they end the Warriors streak. Something about unbeaten teams facing the Bucks. They got to think a knack for that, apparently. But good on Golden State. Nice streak. Handled it well in defeat. Mike, you have anything to add?
Let's see. The Golden State Warriors are now what, 25-1, 24-1, whatever.
Yep.
So it's the regular season, right?
Yep.
Who gives a shit? Let's wait and get to the playoffs, see what happens. Look, here's the thing. I don't care if you go 72-0. All that matters is whether or not you can repeat that performance in the playoffs. That's it. That's all that matters. Let's see. Let's see. What do you got to do? You got to go, 16-0? Or is it? Yeah, you got to go 16-0.
Yeah, 16-0.
It's the only number that matters. It doesn't count essentially when you do it in November and December. It counts when you do it in June. Now, does doing it in November and December get you in the playoffs? Well, it certainly does. However, who cares? Sure, they handled it like professionals. Do you know why they handled it like professionals? Because it's November. They've all lost before. They're the Golden State Warriors. Until the last few years, I don't know if you remember this, but they sucked. Golden State sucked. Now they're pretty good. They've all lost games before. I don't know why we should be patting them on the back. In fact, we should be patting the Philadelphia 76ers on the back when they decide to start finally winning games.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be more of an accomplishment than winning more games. Having a crappy team win a game or two, that's worth celebrating once in a while. Breaking loss streaks. They broke a 26-game losing streak with a win. That's something worth celebrating.
Yeah.
The Warriors losing a game in December, who gives a shit? That's the reality situation. Congratulations on the accomplishment. Doesn't mean jack until you get to June. If you can win 16 games in June, then God bless you. Congratulations. You're NBA champions again. You deserve it. Until then, yay. Stats. Who gives a shit? That's the long and the short. You did it. Great. Who cares? You haven't even made it to the All-Star game yet. Now, if they went undefeated into the All-Star break, then that would be an accomplishment. However, again, who cares?
Yeah.
That's it.
Good
on them. They're professionals. They said the right things to the media. Let's hand them a starburst. And congratulations. Hey, you didn't act like an asshole today. Here's a treat. Oh, Draymond, you said another bad comment. Oh, treat for you today. You don't get any iPad time. You know? Let's not treat these these grown ass men like children. Oh, you were good when you lost. Yeah, I know somebody who's getting a Hershey bar today. Smile. At some point during their career, they learned how to lose. They learned what to do when they lose. They learned that acting like a complete dickwad usually doesn't do you good favors. Let's be clear here. They learn from their losses. You learn more from a loss than you do from a win. That much is true. So the Philadelphia 76ers should be fucking experts at basketball now. However, it is what it is. So let's not patronize them. Let's just say, hey, you lost the game. Well, good news. You've got at least 60 more. Have fun.
That's funny. All right. So let's move from the sports side of things into the entertainment realm here. Whenever we do the box office beat, two things happens. One, we talk about the weekend prior, and two, we talk about the weekend ahead. Well, we're going to do that, but we're going to do this incredibly, as far as the weekend that we just was behind us here, that weekend that just took place. We're going to make this quick because nothing can be said about this. Mockingjay repeated as number one for the fourth straight week because the biggest release of last weekend was a complete and utter flop. And that is In the Heart of the Sea from Ron Howard and Chris Hemsworth. Chris Hemsworth was the star, Ron Howard the director. It was a horrible weekend at the box office. In the Heart of the Sea almost took number one. Hunger Games gets 11.4. In the Heart of the Sea around 11 million even. 10.3 to Good Dinosaur. 10.1 to Creed. Krampus 8.4, which is very good for that movie. It's done very well the first 2 weeks it's been out. So The Night Before 4.1, and then Spectre 4 million. A very weekend at the box office. Now look, this is something that you had to kind of maybe see coming because you had Thanksgiving month, which was a good month. First week of December actually did better than expected. The holdovers all did a little bit. Toto did better, and then Krampus ended up doing better than expected. In the Heart of the Sea was a movie that I didn't see a whole lot of anticipation for. It was a movie that, while well promoted, did not seem to have people it's on my holiday to-do list kind of thing. Okay, and it coming out a week before Star Wars. Again, if the first week of December wasn't going to be as bad as we thought, when was there going to be that week where people kind of just go, I'm not up, all right, reject the box office entirely and wait for in lieu of Star Wars? It turned out it was the second week of December, not the first. And as a result, In the Heart of the Sea flops. The whole box office, which, I mean, you can't fault the holdovers like Hunger Games, Good Dinosaur. They've been out for a few weeks now, so they just dropped like they would have dropped. So it's not like everybody else did bad. Only really the biggest release did really bad. You thought they at least pulled in 20 million, it didn't. So as a result, the whole weekend average is down. So not much can be said about last week other than what was just said. Now you flip the script to what is going to be more than likely a historic weekend at the box office, where a movie is opening in December to unparalleled release numbers. Unparalleled. Disney, of course, we all know what the movie is, and that's Star Wars The Force Awakens, the 7th entry in the Star Wars movie franchise. First one since 2005. Obviously from Disney, Lucasfilms. Opening in 4,134 theaters in December, which is unparalleled. Great cast. Obviously, we know the cast: Warwick Davis, John Boyega, Daisy Ridley, Adam Driver, Oscar Isaac, Harrison Ford, Carrie Fisher, Mark Hamill, the whole crew. PG-13 is no issue there. It's a 2-hour and 16-minute movie, but you don't worry about run times with movies like this. Now, it's not the only big release, but it's the only one that is going to be up to historic magnitude. Now, let's bring up the other releases really quickly first. Alvin and the Chipmunks, The Road Trip, a family comedy opening from Fox at 3,600 theaters, the 4th entry in that franchise. starring Jason Lee, and obviously the same voices as the Chipmunks. And that's that movie will draw. It'll draw well over the holidays. It might not have a big first weekend, but in the end it will draw. And then you have Sisters, a comedy from Universal, opening in over 2,900 theaters, starring Tina Fey, Amy Poehler, Maya Rudolph, Diane Weiss, John Cena, John Leguizamo, and James Brolin. Tina Fey and Amy Poehler also as producers, their first R-rated movie together. Only a $30 million budget. I don't know if it was the best idea to release that movie this weekend. I would know Chipmunks I can at least understand, because it's a proven kind of commodity. You might have a chance, but I don't know if I would have released Sisters this weekend. I probably would have waited a week or done it the week before, especially with another comedy coming out next week. But we'll talk more about next week. We're not going to do that right now. Nothing really of no opening in limited release. Except for Extraction, which is a film from Lionsgate, R-rated film, starring Gina Carano and Bruce Willis. So check your local theater listings for that. So really, this weekend is all about Star Wars. And it's not a question of it being number one. It's not a question of it making $100 million. It's a question of how much, in general, it will make. Most people believe it will at least make $180 million over the opening weekend. Most people, then there's again, that's most people, we think they will make that much. Then there's the group of people that think it will break the Jurassic World record, but not shatter the record. Then there's a group of people that think it will shatter that record and make upwards of $250 million domestic. Where do I fall? I fall in the middle of the fact that it's going to break Jurassic World's record, but I don't know if it'll quite get to 250. I'm thinking maybe 225-ish, around there. Because here's the thing, and a lot of prognosticators are bringing this up, and they have every right to. It is December. It also is the weekend before Christmas. Okay? You got to keep that in mind. I don't doubt that Star Wars in the long term will make a run at Avatar. Especially when you consider it's probably going to do even better overseas than it's going to do here. I don't doubt that. I think in long term it's going to shatter box office records all over the place. But see, when we look at opening weekends and you look back at this past May with Avengers, Age of Ultron. Everybody thought, including myself, thought it was a slam dunk that it would break the Avengers. At that point, it was the Avengers' record, not Jurassic World. Everybody thought it was a slam dunk. But because there were other things going on that weekend, it did not do that. And ultimately, worldwide, it ended up making about as much as you would have thought, at least around there. Domestically, it didn't. Because once you get beyond that opening weekend, the movie leaks out. We all know people pirate their movies, which they shouldn't be doing, but they do. And it happens. And the movie ends up hurting domestically because it didn't have that opening weekend. And now you're opening this movie on a weekend that's the weekend before Christmas. Obviously, people will be shopping. Obviously, people will be doing maybe Christmas parties, other things going on. And then there's also the idea that is, like I said, it is December. Maybe some parts of the country will have weather issues, You got to keep all this into account. And remember something, too. Now, a lot of this movie is going to be relying heavily on nostalgia, adults coming back to the franchise, and then, of course, adults bringing their kids, the whole passing on of the tradition. Well, if there's Christmas parties going on and all this other stuff going on, you risk not getting them this weekend. Not that they don't want to see the movie, but some people don't rush out to see the movie because they got other things going on. So you got to keep all this in mind. And that's why I think the majority of people are taking the tempered approach, saying, well, remember, it is December. It is the week before Christmas. It's opening night tomorrow night into Friday. It's going to be huge. 180 seems like a solid bet. 200 million even seems like a solid bet. It getting, like 20 million or so above Jurassic World seems so much a tall order that I don't know if I can see that happening. I think I can see it breaking the record, But I don't know if I can see it shattering it by quite that much. So like I said, 225, 230 is what I believe. That's what I believe. But obviously, it'll be number one for a few weeks. Obviously, it'll make $1 billion worldwide. Obviously, it will probably end up being the top grossing movie, both domestic and worldwide, of the year. That's all a given. And it probably should at least, it should at least probably take third place on the all-time list for worldwide gross. It should at least do that much. Whether it can get to Avatar level or even second, that's going to be the key. But that, so much of that is going to be, and honestly, if it does shatter the Jurassic World record this weekend, okay, if it does get, let's say it gets to about 240, 250 this weekend, then it has a very good chance at not only getting to number 2 on the worldwide grosses, but getting to Avatar. Because that would suggest that the whole weekend it just kept building and building and building. And then with Christmas next week and kids being out of school and that, it's the perfect storm, just like Avatar had, as far as having legs at the cinema. So I believe, my prediction is it breaks Jurassic World's record. My prediction is in the long term it will at least be in the top 3 worldwide all time grosses. I can't commit to going further than that. I really can't, because so much of it is on with what this weekend brings. And everything kind of, going according to plan for them. So far, the movie, I think, as of a couple hours ago, only had like 1 bad review on Rotten Tomatoes. So the word of mouth is going to be there from the critics anyway. Whether it's going to be there from the fans, we'll see. I imagine it will be. So we'll see what happens. As for outside of that, anybody that tells you they know what the other 2 movies, Alvin and Chipmunks and Sisters, is going to make is completely guessing. I mean, I think most would probably, if they were to guess, would say, probably at least 10, 12 million for Alvin and Chipmunks. They'll do more of its business next week. Sisters, you're probably looking at maybe 8 million. I can't honestly see more than that, because there's so many theaters focused on Star Wars, and so many of the theaters are going to be devoted to Star Wars that, I think it's going to be hard to see anything else if you go to the movie theaters this weekend. So, so many showings being added to, and that's really what makes it so hard to predict too. All these movies, not movies that aren't Star Wars and the movies that are, because if they keep adding showings, that kind of tips the scale of what we expect as far as how much Star Wars will make. And then if they still don't, if they take away showings from Sisters and Alvin and the Chipmunks, and I know people will say, well, you know what, they don't usually do that to new releases. If they have to, they have to. They might have to. If they need bigger theaters or something, you know what I mean? So if they take showings away from some of the other new releases as a result of demand, then that obviously would affect those other movies as well. So, and not just the 2 other new releases, but any holdovers from the previous weeks as well. So we'll see. I mean, it's going to be an interesting case to watch. This is the first time in a long time in December we're going to be tracking how a movie does at the box office as far as records go, because usually you don't get that. Usually in the summer that you get that. But it'll be interesting to see how everything goes over the weekend and beyond for Star Wars, because obviously it's going to break some records. It's a matter of which ones it breaks. Mike, do you have anything to add?
Guess what movie's profitable?
What movie's profitable?
The Peanuts movie.
Oh, well, that's not surprising.
A very long time for them to get there, too. But it's there.
Yeah.
It's profitable. At least it went over its production budget. So the Peanuts movie is a technical success. The Good Dinosaur is not. It's still like 30 million short from its production budget, and we're not even talking about how much its advertising budget was. We're just talking about just making back its production budget, and just it hasn't done it. So I think we might have to start classifying The Good Dinosaur as a bit of a flop. And that's too bad because, Pixar really hasn't had a flop until now. But I feel like, it's weird. I don't know if they had waited on The Good Dinosaur. I think it might have done a little bit better. I think we've learned that a double dose of Pixar might not be the best thing for them, at least. So I think that maybe from here on out they might want to go one a year. I'm avoiding talking about Star Wars for a reason, because everybody's going to talk about Star Wars, and let's face it, it's going to be number one. I feel like with the amount of publicity and the amount of hype this movie has, anything short of like $5 billion this weekend is going to be a disappointment. That's the thing with Star Wars. Like, anything short of X amount with all of the hype, with all of the promotion, with all of the tie-ins, with all of the toys, with all of the product placement, anything short of like $5 billion is going to be disappointing. So it not only should pass Avatar in its first weekend, it should pass Avatar in its first like 2 or 3 days. So that's just how it is. There's so much hype for Star Wars, and look, it is the Christmas season, and yes, it is December, but that's never really stopped people from going to see big movies like The Lord of the Rings. All 6 of them, I guess, came out, and the original trilogy did really, really, really well in December. I mean, are they talking about doing Star Wars money? Probably not. Avatar and Sherlock Holmes came out in December, and they both did really good. Despite Avatar being an avatar and Sherlock Holmes being really good as well. Well, Avatar was an avatar. Sherlock Holmes is really good. We're not talking about the third crappy movie, which is releasing its fourth feature film in the franchise this weekend. They might as well just call what's it called? Alvin and the Chipmunks. The road shit. Because that's what it is. It's road shit. And I don't think the movie will do as well as people think, that movie. It's like, oh, it's a kid's movie. It will kind of correlate to a different audience. Well, here's the deal, Jack. Star Wars and Alvin and the Chipmunks are fighting for the exact same audience. The exact same audience. In fact, here's the thing with all the other new releases this weekend. Whatever their audience is, they are fighting with Star Wars for that audience. Sisters, wow, women go see Star Wars too.
Mm-hmm.
Every movie coming out this weekend is fighting Star Wars for its audience. Because Star Wars' audience is just so generalized. But especially Alvin and the Chipmunks, because kids are obsessed with that crap. They are obsessed with it. You've had how many Star Wars kid shows the last couple of years? Star Wars Rebels, Star Wars The Clone Wars, You know, you've had the Lego Star Wars movies and games. You've had the Star Wars, what is it? Knights of the Old Republic. You've had Battlefront that just came out. You've had all these video games and toys and medium been out on. The hype for this movie's been insane. And Alvin the Chipmunks literally, I'm not even saying figuratively, literally stand no chance. Wake up, Brian.
I'm up.
Yeah, bullshit. I know you're super excited to see Star Wars tomorrow, like every other 5-year-old, but pay attention. I know I'm being condescending. I'm being condescending for a reason.
I know you are.
This. Everybody and their mother is generally going to see Star Wars. In fact, even their mothers might take some of their mothers. And their fathers might take some of their fathers. Because everybody is excited for this movie. I'm not. But then again, I grew up as a Trekkie. True story. I grew up on Star Trek: The Next Generation and some of the older Star Trek movies. That doesn't mean that along the way in my youth, I didn't end up seeing all 6 Star Wars movies. I saw all 3 prequels in theaters. I regret 2.5 of those. I have seen Empire. I have seen New Hope. I have seen the clusterfuck known as Return of the Jedi. So I've seen all of them. Does that mean I'm going to rush out this weekend? Hell no. Not that excited for Star Wars. However, I cannot deny that people are. Majority of people are. Majority of adults saw it when they were kids. Majority of 20-somethings saw the prequels when they were kids and got them interested in the franchise. Majority of kids, this is going to be their first Star Wars cinematic experience. You know, and everybody in between. So every other movie this weekend is going to fight Star Wars for their audience and lose. End of discussion. And it's going to be that way for the next couple weeks. That's just how it's going to be. Because look, not only is everybody fighting for this thing, not only is this movie a cinematic giant, the truth is people are going to wait, and this movie already is getting good word of mouth. That's it. The movie's already getting good word of mouth. So people already have heard great things about this movie that they've been waiting so long for. Disney saves another franchise again. It's probably what they're going to publicize. They made good on Marvel, and now they're making good on Star Wars. Can the mouse do anything wrong? Well, I guess if you look at the Good Dinosaurs box office, possibly.
Yeah.
Although the Good Dinosaurs, that's not speaking to the quality of the movie. I haven't seen it, so I can't speak to the quality of it. It's just, I guess, people got animated out.
Possibility.
I think, well, let's face it, there's already been one Pixar movie that came out this year, and Inside Out, and then the Peanuts movie was the animated movie that everybody went to go see in the fall in Hotel Transylvania. People got animated out.
Yeah.
Even though it was technically the year of the dinosaur and space. The space dinosaur. Why haven't they made that movie?
I don't know. Got me.
I think it's wrong with Hollywood. You should write that movie, Brian. Space Dinosaur.
I'll see what I can do.
You're not going to see what you do. You lied to me.
No.
It's not true. It's bullshit. It's not true. I did not hit her. I did not.
Oh, stop.
Oh, hi, Mark. Maybe he'll make that
movie. Send it to him. Send that idea to him. He probably would make the movie. All right. so like I said, it's really about how much this movie's going to make, how many records it's going to shatter, by how much it might shatter them. And you know what? It's going to make it very hard to predict the next few weeks at the cinema, because Star Wars is going to be number one. You just don't know how much, and you're not going to know, by contrast, how, like, especially next week, Christmas week, when so many other big movies are coming out. Hateful Eight, Will Ferrell's new movie, like how much these movies are going to make in conjunction with Star Wars, because so much will depend on how well Star Wars does now, which makes things very difficult. Whenever you have a big movie like that, a big giant movie like that, it makes it more difficult to predict everybody else along the way as well. Because, I mean, like you said, Star Wars is going to dominate, but those other movies are going to pick up traction too. So they're going to pick up. I mean, they are going to make some money. They're not all going to flop in conjunction with Star Wars. So we'll see what happens over the next few weeks here. It's going to make things very interesting at the box office. And the thing to keep in mind too is, so much Star Wars is really emphasizing IMAX and 3D and RPX and all that deal, which wasn't around for the previous Star Wars films. So that's going to help inflate their totals as well. The fact that they're doing so many showings in that, a lot of times you see every movie, like big movie, do that, but at the same time, there seems like, and I noticed this too when I was looking for a showtime, so many of the showtimes are IMAX, RPX, 3D, more so than I've ever seen for a big movie. So because of that, that's more money spent. And a lot of people ain't going to have a choice to see, what as to what their showtime might be. That's going to help build up the box office number as well for them. So we'll see what happens. It should be a interesting, history-breaking week at the box office. Weekend at the box office, I should say. We'll see how the next few weeks go in conjunction with that. All right. Now let's jump to TV highlights. And let me. Oh goodness. I admittedly didn't watch a whole lot of TV over the last week. I think since we last talked, I've seen Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. because that was after last Tuesday we did the TV highlights. That was good. Not great, good. The last maybe 15 minutes were great. Building up to it was kind of slow. And I didn't appreciate the fact that a lot of the action happened off screen, although I understand there's a logistical reason for that, but still I didn't like that. I got around to Arrow. I got around to Flash. Flash was good. Arrow, I had a couple issues. Of course, they left you on a good cliffhanger. Although I don't necessarily like how heavy-handed they were in setting up said cliffhanger. I'm not going to spoil because I know there's a lot of people out there that probably haven't seen it yet. Very heavy-handed in building up that cliffhanger. A little too much. Okay, I can understand foreboding and foreshadowing, but way off a little bit. That was a little too much. But they left you in a very good it was a good cliffhanger on its own. Just the build up to it was kind of irritating. Let's see what else did I watch over the week. Did I watch anything else over the week? I don't think there was anything else I watched. I mean, there wasn't a lot of shows on last week, really. So I think that's all. I think that's all I checked out. So I mean, I think Flash was very good. Arrow was okay. S.H.I.E.L.D. was okay. That's really all I got the chance to check out. Mike, you want to throw anything out there over this week here?
God, I don't even know what I saw. I did see Arrow and Flash. I enjoyed them both. Yes, the Arrow thing was a little bit heavy-handed, and I'm hoping against hope for it, but it's probably not going to happen. Flash was good. I really liked the little I really like the where they went with it. However, again, that's a little bit heavy-handed too.
Mm.
It was a little bit heavy-handed as well. However, I've got hope for it. Flash and Arrow are doing good work this season. I don't know if they're going to kind of go through that go through with the big spoiler. I'm kind of hoping for it because it might breathe a little bit of new life into the show. Even though
Mm-hmm.
the fan base might lose their shit. Other than that, I mean, I did see Agents of Shield. It was all right. I did enjoy it. But it was okay. I was entertained all the way through. I'd say it was maybe on the level of Arrow, maybe a little bit better. But I was happy with what I saw. It was well acted, well interesting. Very interesting. Excuse me. I feel myself coming down finally with the allergies, and I'm not very happy with it. So other than that, I mean, I've seen. You know what? I think that's pretty much all the shows I've really sat down and watched.
I remembered something, and I know you saw this because I showed it to you. The only other show I watched this week was South Park's finale.
Oh yeah, I keep forgetting about South Park.
I really just remembered that. That was good.
That was good. I was, I was extraordinarily impressed with that final episode. I missed the episode previously because stuff.
Yeah.
But I was extraordinarily impressed with the episode, which was called PC Principal Final Justice. I'm happy they're keeping him on as a regular character because I think there's a lot of potential with PC Principal. So
and let's be honest, his big scene at the end of the show is going to be remembered for a very, very long time.
Yeah, that was pretty awesome. I was very happy with that.
So I'd say that was probably the best of anything I watched this week. Just in terms of this enjoyment throughout, but and folks, I keep experimenting here because some weeks we give you more spoilers when we do this, and some weeks we don't give you any. Like this week, we didn't really give you too much of any. I'm trying to figure out what people seem to respond better to when we do this, so bear with me on that. So this week was more or less less spoilers, more generality. Last week we did a little bit more in terms of spoilers, so we'll see how people react to it. A couple weeks ago they didn't seem to like it, but then the week before that they didn't want spoilers, so I don't know. We'll see how it works out. All right, I know I mentioned in the show description entertainment news, but quite honestly, so much of entertainment news this week was so focused on movie trailers. And so much of what you all sent into me was what I thought about this trailer, what I thought about this trailer, what I thought about this trailer. And then there were questions about whether it was a smart idea for so many of these movies to release their trailers on the heels of another big movie releasing a trailer. So we're not going to talk about entertainment news in bulk this week. I'm going to talk about one thing, and that's a point that somebody made, and I just mentioned it actually. Was it really an intelligent idea for these studios to release so many big movie trailers all at once? Because let's think about something for a minute. Now I know most of these movie trailers are going to be with Star Wars, so they're you know what, they probably figure they're going to leak out or whatever. Let's just put them online beforehand. Okay, which I can understand. We won't include Captain America: Civil War just because it came out several weeks ago right before Thanksgiving. You had Batman vs. Superman released a new trailer, and then literally a week later, you had Independence Day, you had Star Trek, you had Fantastic Beasts and Where They Come From. There are a lot of big trailers in a short period of time. I don't know if it makes much difference, only because you're only releasing them online, and all these movies are coming out at the earliest summer or fall of next year. Okay, now look, if these were a bunch of movies releasing their final trailers, maybe a couple months before release, all at the same time, I think that might be a little bit detrimental to these movies. Okay, obviously the movie that released their trailer first wouldn't be detrimental to, but the movies that followed up, it might be. I mean, if you wanted all the attention and the spotlight to yourself, then it's not too intelligent. But I don't think it's going to hurt any of these movies in the broad scheme of things from a marketing standpoint. If you want my reactions to any of the trailers, I'm not. Look, I thought Star Trek's was Guardians of the Galaxy level rip off, but I thought it looked like a fun movie. I'm gonna see. I think the movie's gonna be good, but I didn't. I thought they really should have tried to include more things that are probably more Star Trekky, assuming they're in the movie, to kind of differentiate a little bit. I mean, maybe it ends up getting more of an audience because it looks like Guardians. I don't know, but I thought that I heard it. Independence Day, I thought was okay. I think that the obvious problem is that Will Smith's not in it, and people are probably that's the first question that they wonder about when they saw the trailer with voice Will Smith. Obviously you can't really explain that in the trailer, but I think that kind of hurts it by default. I know it's not the movie's fault, but it is what it is. And the Fantastic Beasts trailer I thought was okay too. I mean, obviously they're still filming, so there wasn't a whole lot there, but it looked good enough. I mean, that's all I can really say about any of that. I know I'm looking forward to Deadpool's trailer. It's doing the whole 12 Days of Christmas. Great. That movie's marketing for that movie is amazing, by the way. That's great marketing right there. Probably the best marketing of the year right there. At least so far, anyway. They're doing the whole 12 days of giveaways, and on Christmas Day, they're going to unveil a new trailer. So that's perfect. Great. They've done great with that. I'm really excited about that. So, Mike, you want to contribute to the whole movie trailer discussion, or?
I saw a few trailers, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I had meant to see Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them for the last couple of days. I've just never really kind of got around to it.
Mm-hmm.
Although the images I've seen from it look really good. Just I haven't sat down and saw the full trailer. It was a mistake on my part, obviously. I saw Apocalypse. It was okay. I don't know what I was expecting from it, but it was okay. I guess I kind of had a similar issue to you. Like, why is Mystique leading the X-Men after everything? I don't know. I'm hoping it's a bit of a swerve. I'm hoping trailers lie in this case. Because the truth is, trailers mostly lie. Or always lie. I saw Star Trek Beyond. I was actually, you know what? I watched it the first time. I was like, oh, this is pretty fun. And then I watched it again. I'm like, where's the ship? And then I realized the whole thing was like, oh, well, most of the story is taking place away from the ship. That's why it's Beyond. I'm like, Star Trek The Next Generation had like 2 movies like that. And they didn't promote it as being Beyond or anything. They just promoted it as a Star Trek movie. It's like alien planet. Beyond the ship. Beyond all hope. Beyond blah, blah, blah. It's like, who cares? Just make it a Star Trek movie. That's all I'm asking. Just make it a Star Trek movie. Is that so much to ask, really? Because eventually they have to be on the ship for the giant climax. Does the Enterprise need to be blown up? No. Unless, well, I mean, the Enterprise usually gets blown up, but it doesn't have to be. But anyways, I think it does look a bit more like Guardians of the Galaxy, maybe too much for its taste. Guardians of the Galaxy was a space opera of its own nature. You can't really rip that off. And besides, I thought they'd be going somewhere different with Star Trek. You know, Klingons. The most legendary villain / uneasy ally in Star Trek history. Or even Romulans. Maybe the Romulans should make a comeback. You introduced Klingons in the last movie as this like ruthless warrior race, and then you totally ignore the shit out of them in this one. See, I don't know. That's not how I would do the third movie in the franchise.
Just something to toss out there while you're on the subject of Star Trek. I just read an article. One of our listeners, one of our fans. I still say listeners, I should say fans because we're on screen now. Just sent me an article, and this is all over the internet. Apparently, it was posted this afternoon. Apparently, Star Trek Beyond director Justin Lin has said that while what happened in Star Trek Into Darkness is still part of canon, and we're not going to say it didn't happen, we're going to politely ignore all the happenings of that movie in this one.
Yes, because that works out so well for most movies based in the Star Trek franchise.
I was paraphrasing that, but that's basically what he said. It's 2.5 years after the last movie, and basically 2.5.
Oh.
So they're going into time.
2.5 years.
Yeah.
So we're 2.5 years into the 7-year voyage. You know what? I would have been okay with Star Trek waiting another like 6 months or even 7 or 8 months just so J.J. Abrams would come back and direct this movie. Justin Lin, I am not the biggest fan of. I would have been okay if J.J. Abrams had just like, all right, J.J., take a couple months, take a month break, and then get your ass back on set and direct your Star Trek movie. Because it kind of comes off like, you know what? He did a really good job in the first 2 Star Trek movies. They offered him Star Wars. He's like, peace, I'm out. You know? Here's this other guy. Oh, yeah, I'll still produce and everything. But I'm doing Star Wars now. It's like, JJ, you're a dick. And I like J.J. Abrams. I really do. But I wish he just would have taken, you know what? Finish your Star Wars first. Get that shit out. And then take 2 or 3 months. Come back. Finish Star Trek. And then take a break. Finish what you started. Give us the Klingons. Give us the story you want. We didn't get it. I'm a little sour about that, but what are you going to do? Justin Lin's going to pretend that Into Darkness didn't happen because that's such a good idea. It's only worked for one movie franchise ever because it had to happen with X-Men because 2 of those movies were turds of the highest quality. Well, not highest quality, lowest quality, yeah. And Into Darkness, you know, is a good movie. Had a good actor in it as a villain. He's going to be Doctor Strange. Just saying. I'm not happy with what I heard from Justin Lin. Let me just say that right now. The trailer was fine. You don't need to you ignore it, but anyways. That's what I've seen.
By the way, that's the first I had heard about that, so I'm rather surprised by those comments. Again, you can read the articles. You can Google search Star Trek Beyond. You'll see them. There's plenty of them. I kind of got that feeling from the trailer that they might try something like this. It just felt like that, but all right. I didn't mention X-Men Apocalypse. I was which is in my trailer deal here. I liked it. I didn't love it. There's some things in that trailer that are quite controversial. It's been making some waves. You can probably find a lot of information. I'm not going to really comment on it, but because Bob might get edited out now, I'd imagine. But the one problem I have with the trailer is, and I like Jennifer Lawrence. She's one of my favorite actresses right now. And we'll talk more about this on an upcoming show. It feels that her. And again, I haven't seen the movie, so maybe I'm wrong about this, but in the trailer, you get the idea that she's reading the X-Men a little bit. And if that's the case, I have a major issue. And I understand some people are like, well, in this trilogy, you know, she's kind of been a linchpin of it. It makes some sense for her to grow into that role and everything. Maybe it does, but at the same time, I don't like it. It doesn't sit well with me. I don't think it's right. I don't think I don't think it works, you know. And then there's been some other things said by, and I like Jennifer Lawrence, but there's been other things said that I don't like either. We'll talk more about them at a later time, but so I'm not exactly happy with where I think it might be going. So we'll see, but I didn't really care for the trailer as much as I probably would have liked to have. Like when I remember a couple years ago, in Days of Future Past trailer, I was like, "Oh, this is great." This time around, I was like, "Okay, that looks good. That looks good." And then I got to a couple parts, I'm like, "Oh, okay, whoa." So we'll see. We'll talk more. We'll be talking more about some things with that in the next couple of weeks. I don't want to dwell on it too much, but I wanted to talk because everything that we got sent to us about entertainment news, that so much of it was about trailers. So I thought we'd focus the whole entertainment news discussion about trailers because that seemed to be what so many people wanted us to talk about, and that seemed to be the focal point of all movie news this week, on top of anything to do with Star Wars. So I figured that was the best way to handle the entertainment news portion of things. So, all right, we covered everything in entertainment. Let's jump to wrestling to finish out the night. And that had to be one of the most. First of all, you know, it's the last few months we talked a lot about WWE and the problems they were having, and really still are. But you know, what a difference a week makes. If you go around the message boards, a lot of message, but there's still people complaining and stuff. I'm not trying to say it's like everybody's hunky dory, but there is a hell of a lot more positive this week than there was last week. Now it's not the case for everybody, but that seems to be. If you look around enough, you'll see that. You had Sunday night's pay-per-view. It ended up being a pretty good pay-per-view. And I mean, it's funny how every time we seem to think that a pay-per-view would be god-awful, WrestleMania last year and then TLC, it ends up being at least decent. And that was a decent pay-per-view. It was smartly booked, you know. It really was a good pay-per-view. And then the ending, which really could be a moment that completely changed the complexion of Roman Reigns and the whole company for a very, very long time. Because I don't know who I'm gonna guess Triple H came up with it. I would probably assume he did. But that attack on Triple H after that match turned so much of Roman Reigns' negativity around. But for him to get embraced the way he did in Philly on Monday night, Philly, which booed him out of the building in January. And even on Monday night, even after that Triple H thing, although it was far, far less pronounced, there was still booing. But that match with Sheamus at the end, what happened during the night with Stephanie McMahon, what happened during the night with Vince McMahon being involved in that ending, you could see it. Everything kind of turned, and the reaction that he got, and you especially hear it with some of the clips that are on YouTube after the show went off the air, where Reigns was celebrating his win with Ambrose and the Usos, and then he made a speech about how everything kind of came full circle. You could especially hear the crowd reaction there. The fact that he got that reaction less than a year, almost a year actually, to the day when he got booed out of the building for winning the Royal Rumble is amazing. And it boggles my mind that having him dismantle Triple H, you know, Stephanie slaps him a few times, Vince humiliates him, and then he punches Vince McMahon. He basically destroys and wins the title off of Sheamus. All of a sudden, with that moment, everybody just kind of in that arena kind of was like, "Oh, okay, we can cheer him now."
No. That's a generalized reaction. You know it.
I don't know. I don't think everybody was.
No, I mean, here's the thing: they pop for the reign. They pop for the change because they always pop for a change.
Right.
By that point, a lot of people walked out of the building. By that point, yeah. Here's the other thing: the crowd was mild at best for the change. For the post change. The women and children were louder. All it was is you just created another Cena situation. That's it.
Well,
That's it. Because let's see. The women and children are always kind of going to be there for Reigns. And his post-match promo wasn't horrible. The fact that but you could have had everybody on your side if you delayed this just a little bit longer, you know?
Right.
It's just the moment he was away from the title and did the Triple H thing, people were like, "Oh, well, this is really cool." And then Monday, he kind of got harassed and humiliated all night. So you're kind of building up to something.
Right.
But I really, really wish they didn't run the title change.
Mm-hmm.
I really wish they found a way to screw Roman Reigns, because the more you prolong it, the better off it gets. Excuse me, I'm blowing my nose a lot. You have to make them interested in the chase. And unfortunately, they just couldn't wait. WWE couldn't wait. And it's not, and you know what? The big thing is going to be in the next couple weeks.
Yeah.
When you got Brock Lesnar wandering around, when you've got like Undertaker will be popping in soon, when John Cena will reappear, it'll be interesting to see if these reactions hold. I don't think they will. I honestly don't, especially when you get to a big pay-per-view thing. Because now you know what? And you texted me some things, and I looked it up a little bit later. Like, there are rumors that Roman might carry it through Mania now.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, I'll let you talk in a minute, but the best way to derail Roman Reigns and ruin him completely is to let him carry that title through WrestleMania. Bad move. But no, go ahead. I'll explain later.
I think that here's the thing. Okay, let me kind of clarify what I mean. They got the reaction they wanted for the change. It wasn't completely rejected. It wasn't an awkward, bitter scene, okay? And that's what they wanted for the change. They got to that point. And they had to do a hell of a lot to do. And look, their ratings went up big. Good for them. They needed that. That's what they probably... I honestly think in a lot of ways, and there's other things. There's a lot more ways to it too, but I'm going to talk about the one I want to focus on the show right now. A lot of it had to do, and Mike, you made this point over the last couple of weeks, with the fact that Sheamus was a cold heel.
Yeah.
And I think what happened was nobody bought into it when he cashed in. The cash in was a way to delay Roman's push. And then it's like you cashed him in because of a last-minute thing. But and unlike whatever happened with Rollins at Mania last year, you didn't have anything built in to do with him. Because nothing had been done to build him up.
But there's the problem. You gave him the stable so you can build him up.
Right. But what have they done with the stable?
But go ahead.
They haven't done anything with the stable. All they've done is really kind of bury it.
Well, all they've done is really bury it, but the stable hasn't even gotten off the ground, really.
Yeah. And there's rumors it might disband already.
Well,
because apparently there's a lot of, there was a lot of hand-wringing over the last few weeks over what to do about everything. Because, look, of all the injuries, of everything with the ratings and everything, that you could tell they didn't know what to do with themselves for weeks. And I think that was one of the things. They had Del Rio with Mex America and Zeb Coulter. All of a sudden, like, nope, we're going to put Del Rio with the League of Nations, and then the League of Nations goes nowhere. Now they're talking about having it be over in maybe at max a few months' time. It's like we don't know what to do with any of these guys because we don't know what to do with most of these guys because all of our plans got shot to hell for one reason or another. And our ratings are down. Everybody's mad. Everybody's upset. Nobody likes us right now. We got to do something. And they're trying to figure out what sticks and what doesn't stick.
Well, here's the thing.
Go ahead.
Well, here's the thing. Usually when you don't know what to do, the worst thing you can do as your main event is a cold heel and a divisive face.
Right.
Half the crowd's going to cheer and half the crowd's going to boo.
Right.
best case scenario, you interject a third party into that feud where everybody's going to boo or everybody's going to cheer. You could have extended this match to Rumble and introduced that third party, who I assume would have been Brock Lesnar.
Right.
Now, here's the thing. Roman's got the title. Sheamus is now going to be the challenger for the title. What's different? You've got a divisive face as the champion. You got a cold heel as the challenger. You are in the same place, except now the title's on the other guy now. You got the pop for the change. You're like, oh, Roman, he's our guy now. Ha, ha, ha. The thing with Roman Reigns is he's not the guy yet. Look, I think it's cool that he won the title. I do. I don't hate the move. I think it's kind of been a long road. He doesn't look bad with the belt. The problem with is you haven't built him up where he's not a divisive face.
Right.
After the match with Triple H, after another hot personal feud, and after a prolonged story where he has a deeply intense feud with the guy who's the champion, that's when people will give a crap about Roman Reigns being the champion. All you've done now is cement him as a guy that half the crowd is going to cheer and half the crowd is going to boo.
Now,
that's it. That's all you've done with Roman.
There is a way around this still. And it's something that Roman kind of hinted at in his ESPN interview, and something that was hinted at a little bit even on Monday night. He did punch Vince McMahon.
Yeah.
You know there's going to be repercussions.
Yeah.
I wonder, and look, they had him destroy Triple H for a reason. That has to come into play at some point. So there is still that chance, and I think this is their failsafe. I mentioned to you in a text. I said they have two failsafes. They can either do it quickly and have it happen next week during the Slammy episode, where they say, you know what, Roman, you punched Vince McMahon, you punched the chairperson of this company, you're fired. We're stripping you of the title. And then everything comes crashing down that way, or they do some kind of screw job thing where you have to defend the title on Monday night and Triple H comes back and screws him out of the title, and then there it is. And then we keep the title off him again for another few months, and then he battles Triple H at Mania. Because I think he's going to battle Triple H. But do they have that match at Mania, or do they have that match at the Rumble?
I wouldn't have that match at the Rumble. That is a waste of Triple H, and I think they know it.
Agreed.
Man's got so many. Triple H is in better condition than a lot of his contemporaries, but he's only got so many matches left on his bump card.
Right.
Before he finally decides, look, I cannot be a wrestler anymore.
Right.
Because of like everybody in that era, we are coming to the end of a lot of these guys.
Right.
And Triple H is one of them. So you can't waste Triple H on something like the Rumble. He's a Mania SummerSlam guy, period.
Right.
And I think...
agree.
Yeah, so I feel like Roman and Triple H seems to be the match.
And
which is why, you know what? That's why I don't feel like overreacting. I feel like it was the wrong move. But I think the end goal here is that somebody else has to carry the title into WrestleMania. Vince McMahon doesn't want that to happen. Vince McMahon would be like, oh, Hunter, you're going to win the Rumble and you're going to lose to Roman Reigns. That's a terrible idea, and I think everybody else knows it.
It does present the interesting option. Well, let's say, hypothetically speaking, they run an angle next week where they say Vince comes out and says, you know what? You knocked me out. You put my son-in-law in the hospital. I was going to give you a chance. No, you're fired. And then all of a sudden the WWE champion is fired. But then Sheamus, of course, will run out and say, hey, you know what? Put the title back on me. Well, okay, Vince, like, you did lose the title. So I can't really do that. So what does Vince do? They'll hold the title up.
They're having it. Well, the other thing is you're going to have that title vacant again for the second time in
Yeah.
3 months?
Well, that's the problem they've created.
Yeah.
But I think with an opportunity where they can have maybe a multiple guy match at Royal Rumble. And that can protect some of these guys from sustaining another loss. And maybe by that point, Reigns has gotten his job back. Reigns can be in the match, and then Triple H can screw Reigns out of that match. And then it keeps Roman out of the Rumble. And then whoever you want to be the guy to carry the title into Mania, you have being that multiple guy match. Whether it's a Kevin Owens, whether it's a Brock Lesnar, whether it's, whoever you want it to be. And then your problem solved, and vice versa. You pick who wins the Rumble based on that match. And then it even adds more to Roman's story because he held it, and then it's like, oh my God, they took it away from me again. And then you don't touch Roman Reigns with the title until at least SummerSlam. And then you just go with that.
In fact, I don't even know if you'd even have Roman Reigns even touch the title at SummerSlam.
Right. Well, I was just being, but yeah, you could do that too. I mean, it depends on what you want to do. But there are ways to get out of this. They do have that. And I think they know that.
And here's the other problem with Roman Reigns. Like, him as a face, even after the Triple H program, is going to be divisive at best, like I said, because you rushed. And then you've got and here's the other thing. You're going to have Rollins coming back to a hero's welcome. Right. You're going to have guys coming up from NXT who are going to get cheered out of the building and are going to be developed as the future faces of the company, i.e. Sami Zayn.
Right.
And you've already got guys who are natural faces who are better faces than Roman Reigns.
Oh, absolutely.
Dean Ambrose, and I know I might get some shit over it, but I don't care. Ryback is a better badass heel than Roman Reigns. He is. And unlike Roman Reigns, Ryback gets cheered by 90% of the crowd. Especially when he does his chants. Especially when he does his moves. Ryback is a face that matters.
Right.
And if I were them, I'd actually I put Ryback ahead of Roman. And I've said this before.
Mm-hmm.
Ryback is a big, badass face who goes out there, kicks ass, and leaves. And has a positive message and gets all of his shit over. Would I ever put him over in a match with Kevin Owens? Fuck no, but I'm biased. But would I put Ryback over in a match with Sheamus? Probably not, but I'm biased. But if I were as a booker, I would probably have had Ryback as champion by now.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that may be popular, and I know CM Punk will probably hate me now because I said good things about Ryback. But the thing is, the dude's still over.
Right.
The dude's still over. With apologies to CM Punk, he's still over.
Here's the thing: if you ever get a long, sustained push behind Ryback, his reaction's even louder. Because we've heard Ryback when he's been in the main event, when he's at the pinnacle of his pushes, his reactions are amazing.
Yeah.
So I mean, and the fact he still gets this reaction now when he's directionless is a testament to how over he is. Again, I think there's a lot of reasons why they did what they did. And look, ratings wise, it worked. It was probably the best Raw in months because a lot of things happened. There was a little bit more of a direction. The pay-per-view was good. They had a good week. And I think a lot of decisions are going to be made based on, in a lot of ways based on reactions. I think in a lot of ways they left themselves enough openings so it's not like they're 100% committed to this. I love how all week I've been hearing people say, "Oh, he's carrying the title." There's no guarantee he's carrying the title into Mania.
In fact, it'd be a bad move for him to carry the title into WrestleMania. The thing with Roman Reigns is while he's fine, he's got the title right now. I guess reality's
Mhm.
sinking in. He needs that match with Triple H
Yeah.
more than he needs the title at the moment.
Agreed. Yep.
And I think when Triple H finally sits down and tells them that this needs to happen, and he doesn't look, Roman accomplishing his dream, he holds it for more than a day. That's a big deal.
Yeah.
But having Triple H come out and screw Roman Reigns makes that feud personal. And Roman Reigns, and he screws Roman Reigns. Let's say he screws Roman Reigns in the rematch. Let's say he screws Roman Reigns in the chamber. He makes sure Roman Reigns doesn't get anywhere near that title in the chamber.
Right.
Suddenly, people care about Roman Reigns versus Triple H. He needs people to care. He needs not just half the crowd. He needs all the crowd. And having that sustained push might help. And him kicking Triple H's ass after that ladder match certainly did help.
It did. But again, it has, like you said, we have to commit to that and build it up for months. And that's something that I think they're going to do. Because otherwise, why bother trying it? Why bother having him? I mean, Triple H even tweeted to him, "Game on." I think, you know, it adds to the heartbreak if they strip him of the title, get rid of, do whatever they do this week. Because you know what? Why else would they do all of these things? Why else would they have him knock out Vince in that same match? There's not going to be any. There's going to be consequences for it.
There has to be consequences for it.
And that's why I love it. It's been like the last couple of days I've been looking at reactions. But it was like, oh, the Roman Empire's begun. All this. He won the title, yes. But even Roman himself has said, this might be my last week in WWE, storyline-wise, of course. Because think about it, I Superman punched Vince McMahon. They didn't run the firing angle last week. They had other ideas. But you got to think they're going to run something at some point where his future is uncertain. And Triple H coming back next week would not be a shock. It'd be almost storytelling, basic storytelling.
He came back already today.
Yeah, and NXT. Yep. My feeling is this. This was their way of giving Roman a moment. It's a good storyline. He wins the moment. He wins the title in the place that booed him out of the building and gets a good reaction. And then it adds to the heartbreak when inevitably he loses it again. In some ways, it mirrors Daniel Bryan. Think about it. He gets cashed in on at Survivor Series with aid from Triple H. And then he wins the title, but then the next Raw, guess what happens? It's taken away again. That's exactly what happened to Daniel Bryan. In the Daniel Bryan case, it was a quick count, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they're probably going to run the same thing because it was said a couple of weeks ago that that was the idea they were looking at, long-term building this as like a Daniel Bryan kind of thing with Roman Reigns. So if that's what's going to happen, he's going to in some way, shape, or form, the title's going to be taken from him.
Even though people are actually behind Daniel Bryan.
Right. But I can see where they would think is, look, if you do this and you run this and then you have the feud with Triple H and you wait as long as you can to put the title out, it makes for a good story. It will work, but you can't rush it and you can't force it. They started something on Sunday that helped Roman for the first time in a long time. They're going in a direction that will ultimately help him, but they have to stick to it. Patient and think, okay, we got a good reaction. Because you know what? Yes, they got a good reaction in a place that hated him 12 months ago. Great for you. But who's to say that when you come to the next event next Monday night, they won't hate him? And the event after that, and then the event after that, and so on and so forth. That's the key. I'm sure his reactions are going to be better now. But you're right, Mike. That you created the kind of face you did not want to create. You did not want Cena 2.0. You wanted his coronation moment to be received almost organically across the board. You've made it now where I don't know if that'll ever be possible, but you can at least maybe get it as close to you as you can to that point. And doing it when you did it did not accomplish that. Despite what all the media and everybody else is trying to say. I don't understand it, but it is what it is. I expect there to be a swerve. My feeling is that he more than likely will not carry the title in the Mania. Whether he carries the title into the Rumble or not, that's to be determined. I'd say right now, him being the champion at WrestleMania is 50-50 at best. And probably depending on how things go feedback-wise or whatever their plans are. Maybe they have a plan. Maybe it's all part of the plan. I don't know. But we'll see. It was definitely an interesting week. Outside of the Reigns, McMahon, Triple H stuff, there wasn't a whole lot going on. Although Kevin Owens dropped the title to Dean Ambrose, and that's going to be revisited, obviously. Other than that, there really wasn't much else going on. So much of the focus was on Reigns. NXT London today. I haven't seen it yet, although I look forward to seeing it. The biggest surprise was probably the NXT Championship match. If you don't want to be spoiled, please do not listen to what I'm about to say. 3, 2, 1. Finn Balor retained. But I'm sure you're shocked. Huh?
A little surprised by that, too.
Very surprised by that. Of course, they did announce that somebody's coming back next week.
Yeah.
So that could maybe be something involved in that, maybe. I don't know. But yeah, I was quite surprised by that he retained. Because I thought it was almost a foregone conclusion that Joe was going to win. So, but hey, I guess it's good for Finn Balor. The reign continues, and I'm going to guess that I'm not going to spoil who this return is, but it's talent that's going to be returning next week. I'm going to guess might get involved with Finn Balor.
Yes, this talent who we cannot name. He might be so generic, it might be hard to say. I don't know. I think we might be insane trying to figure this out. It's not like they haven't been promoting this guy's return for the last couple weeks.
Yes, of course.
I mean, I'm just Sammy saying, that's all I'm saying. It's a hell of a talent.
Hell of a talent.
It's not like they haven't been promoting this guy's return.
Oh, no, they have. Very much so. I was just being coy on purpose, but okay.
It's Sami Zayn.
It's Sami Zayn. But yeah, I think that they're definitely probably going somewhere with it. I don't know if their plans have changed. I thought Zayn would be, when he came back, be right on the main roster, but who knows? Maybe their plans have changed. I don't know, but I think that was quite the surprise that Balor retained for sure. But I haven't seen the special yet. I've heard good things about it. I'll probably watch it later tonight, I imagine. But yeah, I mean, that was quite the surprise. So we'll see what happens going forward here. I know that a lot of people were quite shocked by that. I don't think anybody was shocked that Bayley retained. But yeah, I mean, it was quite the shock, and we'll see what happens. The next NXT TakeOver, I think, is going to be WrestleMania weekend in Dallas. So whether Sami Zayn will be the next challenger or they'll do something else, I don't know. We'll see what happens. But definitely an interesting week in WWE. Good week for many reasons, and for some reasons it wasn't. But but
Kevin Owens finally looks like an awesome badass again.
Yes, funny. He drops the belt, and all of a sudden he reclaims his form. I'm telling you, that belt.
Yeah, he brutalizes. This is a bit of a spoiler. he brutalizes Dolph Ziggler in SmackDown apparently so much that he gets disqualified.
Yeah. It's like whoever holds that belt gets like weakened capabilities or something. Like I don't understand. Like what's the deal with the Intercontinental title? But
So now we finally might see more direction from Kevin Owens. Not that he hasn't had a direction. It's just look, they've kind of messed up the feud with Dean Ambrose. And let's be honest here, the only reason why Owens lost to Ambrose was because I think Ambrose was the only face on the card who won.
right.
Ambrose was the only good guy on the card who actually won a match.
Right.
So, because I'm pretty sure heels went over in every other match.
They did.
Yeah, heels went over.
And by the way, our wrestling fans out there that went crazy about the tag team match with the Quisto and the spot off the ladder. Yes, it was awesome. And no, that kind of stuff is not banned in WWE, although it's not encouraged either. A lot of people ask me if I first of all, I'm not a wrestling aficionado. I haven't been watching more than like 10 years, but a lot of people were asking us if moves like that were banned because they haven't seen them so much in WWE in a long time. No, they're not banned. They're just not encouraged. But it was awesome. Did I lose you, Mike?
No.
Oh. I think I cut you off. Did you want to say something? I'm sorry.
No, this time you didn't cut me off.
Oh, okay. I thought I did because I thought when I brought that up, I thought somehow I heard something. But okay. Yeah, but that spot was good, and obviously it's been gift and it's all over the internet. It was amazing, and that was an amazing match. It's definitely the best match of the night for sure. And all three of those tag teams were just amazing, and Kalisto especially was like a star in that match. So, and the trombone moment was good too. Who can forget that? All right, we're done for tonight. We covered everything we needed to cover, so let's wind down. As always, the show might be over. It does not mean you have to stop interacting or contributing to the show or have your voice heard. You can, of course, email us about email, Facebook, or tweet us your feedback, questions about the show, scheduling of the show, reactions, comments, anything we said on the show, any topics we discussed. You can suggest things for us to talk, topics for us, or things you want us to talk about. Any kind of suggestions you want to suggest to us. Breaking news items, topics you want us to discuss on the show, related to sports, entertainment, wrestling, anything you want us to cover. Email, Facebook, or tweet us any of these things. Again, email for our show is itspotlight411@gmail.com. You can tweet us at itspotlight411. Remember to use the hashtag itspotlight411 or hashtag ITS5. ITS5, of course, representing our 5th anniversary on the air as a podcast. You can also find us on Facebook. Just search for In the Spotlight 411 on Facebook and make sure you like our page upon finding it. We encourage you to follow us on Facebook and Twitter for the latest information about our show, especially as it relates to scheduling, in case there's any last minute changes ever, especially when we do our football blitz shows, which are usually during the day. Sometimes time can change pretty rapidly with that, so just keep that in mind. As I mentioned last week's show, our new host site, Podbean and iTunes, we're putting off starting those up until the first week of 2016 to go along with a couple of the creative changes that we're making to the show. So as of right now, we still do not have an audio way for you to check us out. The only way you can check us out is here visually on Google Hangouts and on YouTube. So for all you that like audio format and are waiting for us to have all of our episodes from all of our years, not just when we were here on Google Hangouts and YouTube, but on other sites as well, all in one place, you're going to have to wait a few more weeks for that. Again, that will be coming the first week of 2016. But for right now, as I said, you can check out any of our recent episodes. All of our episodes since we debuted here on Google Hangouts and YouTube, all 24 of them, including tonight's, are available here anytime on Google Hangouts and on YouTube. Just search for In the Spotlight 411, and once you find us on either Google Hangouts or YouTube, you'll have access to our full channel of all 24 episodes, including tonight's, on either our Google Hangout channel or YouTube. You can check them out anytime, whether you miss an episode, want to rewatch an episode, or maybe missed a part of an episode, whatever the case may be. Feel free to check us out on Google Hangouts and YouTube anytime you wish. That's the only way for you to catch up on any of our current or recent shows. Again, we don't have an audio way for you to do that yet, but we will have that in first week of 2016 ready for you on Podbean and on iTunes. So new episodes, once again, for our show will be up on iTunes starting in 2016. But if you're a fan, either a new fan that wants to learn a little bit more about us, or maybe you're a longtime fan that wants to listen to some old shows, you can check out our old shows, our classic shows, either on blogtalkradio.com, which contains our first 31 episodes, our original 31 episodes of the show, or on TalkShoe, Libsyn, or iTunes, which includes all our episodes from when we moved from Blog Talk Radio to TalkShoe, all the way up to when we moved from TalkShoe right here to Google Hangouts and YouTube. So if you want those episodes, check out TalkShoe, Libsyn, or iTunes. And if you, so again, all those sites, Blog Talk Radio, TalkShoe, Libsyn, iTunes, for any of our past episodes before our Google Hangouts and YouTube days, just search for us under our old title on any of those sites. Like with Brian Gardner. And again, you can search for our original 31 episodes, first 31 episodes ever of our show on blogtalkradio.com, and everything else from that point all the way up to Google Hangouts and YouTube, you can check out on TalkShoe.com, Libsyn.com, and iTunes.com. Again, you want to search for us under our old title on all those sites, whether it's Blog Talk Radio, TalkShoe, iTunes, or Libsyn. You want to search for us under In the Spotlight with Brian Gardner on all those sites. Again, Blog Talk Radio, TalkShoe, Libsyn, iTunes. Just search for us under our old title, In the Spotlight with Brian Gardner. Of course, we're on Google Hangouts and YouTube looking for our recent episodes or current episodes, the 24 episodes that we've done here on Google Hangouts and YouTube, you can find by just searching for us under our new title, In the Spotlight 411. So keep all that information in mind if you need it to act. So that if you need to check out either old episodes or catch up on some more recent episodes, you can do that. I want to thank Mike for being here tonight. Thank you, Mike.
All right, now I'm going to sleep.
Of course. I want to thank myself for another great show, pat myself on the back. Thank all of you for your continued support and contributions to the show. Thank you so much for watching and for all that you do. We really do appreciate it. Patience, understanding, support, all that good stuff. Thank you so much to all of you. That is our only primetime show for this week. We will have one more show this week. That will be our football, In the Spotlight Football Blitz show, which will be coming at you this Friday, which is December the 18th at 2 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time, broadcasting and streaming live here on Google Hangouts and on YouTube. We'll do a little bit with the college football bowls. That'll be part one of our college football bowl preview. We'll look back at last week's NFL games, look ahead to this week's NFL games, look back at predictions, all that good stuff. Maybe do a little talk about the Heisman as well, although who knows? That was kind of predictable, so I don't know. And again, next week and the week after, we'll have only 2 shows as well. Both weeks we'll have shows on Tuesday night at 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time here on Google Hangouts and YouTube. They'll both be sports entertainment combo shows. And then, of course, we'll have our In the Spotlight Football Blitz on Wednesday of next week and the Wednesday of the following week as well. So that's what's going to be coming up over the next couple of weeks. But again, this is our only primetime show of this week. Our next show will be our In the Spotlight Football Blitz show this Friday, December, I should say, the 18th, broadcasting and streaming live here on Google Hangouts and on YouTube at 2 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. That's our next show. Until then, I hope you all have a great rest of your night, a great Thursday, and a great Friday. I'll see you back here on Google Hangouts and on YouTube at 2 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time this Friday for the Football Blitz. Until then, have a good night, everybody.